everybody. Welcome to Hallmarkies podcast. And we're really excited today because we're talking about coming of age films. We're doing our ranking, our favorites, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Terry's here.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I want to complain, but I won't.
It's interesting because people know that coming of age movies can be a hard sell for me.
Yeah,
I
same.
really dislike that like sullen, miserable
Mm.
teenager archetype that you so often have. But there have been some, that, of course, that have done it well and do it well. So it was actually a harder list than you think to make.
I, it was for me as well. It was like, now I gotta cut does this count? It was kind of hard.
I even have a couple ties, so I cheated a little bit with this, but
Acceptable.
there's some so good. But we also have, if you want more of our picks, we have 3 additional picks in our bonus episode for the patrons. So if you want to hear more from us, then sign up for the Patreon. Any level can listen to the episode. So you definitely want to check that out. And we have lots of other great perks for being a patron. But let's dive in. Let's talk about it. What do you have at number 12?
I have an Australian movie, Muriel's Wedding, which
Oh,
stars
yeah.
Tony Collette and Rachel Griffiths. Griffiths, I think. Oh, there's my lisp. I can't say the S's. Um, but Muriel is a lot to take in this movie. She's very socially
Yeah.
awkward.
Would
She
you say
dreams
it's coming
about.
of age though? She seems like she's older.
No, I Googled it, and she's in her young 20s. It is a coming of age
Oh,
movie, but
okay.
they're very like youngish, like
Yeah.
so maybe it doesn't borderline, I guess maybe.
Yeah.
This one's
But
kind of
she is
borderline,
a
but
lot. She
she
is.
is a lot to take
Woo.
in, but I think she's perpetually stuck as a teenager too.
Yeah.
But she's got crappy friends. She loves ABBA. Um, her father's uh, terrible, and she goes to this wedding from one of her friends, and she catches the groom sleeping with the bridesmaid, and then she gets kicked out because she stole the dress. And she's working for this company, and her mom gives her a blank check to buy cosmetics for this company, this new place that she's working at. And her mom's like trusting her. But of course, what does Muriel do? She steals $12,000 from her mother to go on this holiday vacation, like this. I forgot what the island is, that her friends have uninvited her from. They don't want her to go, so she crashes it. It's very awkward. And there she meets up with I believe her name was Rhonda. It's played by Rachel Griffiths. And she loves ABBA too, and they become instant buddies. And when she gets home, her mom's like, "You stole my money. What am I gonna do?" So they run away together in Sydney, and Rhonda gets sick. She has cancer, and she ends up in a wheelchair. And Muriel is so obsessed. She starts using like, "Oh, I've got cancer and all this," to go to like bridal shops and try on wedding dresses and get some stuff. She's really using her friend's illness to her benefit. And this like puts them at odds. And then she accepts an offer to marry this South African swimmer so he can join the Australian team to play for the Olympics. And she finally has her big wedding. And then her mother dies because her mother's in poverty, struggling to make it on because she stole all her mother's money. And she goes home for the funeral and she reevaluates her life. And essentially, she realizes I've got a fake marriage, but my best friend Rhonda was just, you know, what was stuck by me and all my weirdness. And so she becomes a better friend. And there you go. She realizes she has to be an adult. And she's a lot to take, but there is a certain charm in this movie and the friendship and very good performances from both of these actresses. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's an oddball of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can see what you're saying. How it would
Yeah.
be kind of comforting because she is such like a flawed character.
Yeah, it's totally flawed and totally like, girl, you got to get yourself together, you know. But her
Mm-hmm.
poor mom and her dad, yeah, because like her mom is like broke, struggling. I mean, she took all
Mm-hmm.
her money to go on a vacation that nobody wanted her on, you know, and her husband's leaving her, the mom, you know, because the dad's a real piece of work. But you know, she finally grows up towards the end.
Yeah. Well, my first pick is one of my ties. I think kind of think of it as one movie. But it is the childhood stories of Marcel Pagnol in My Mother's Castle and My Father's Glory. And My Father's Glory is the first one, My Mother's Castle is the second one. But these movies are wonderful about Marcel, who became a great writer, that he in the summers that he would spend in that they had a well, sometimes it's more than just the summers, but that they would spend on the in the Provence in France and in the countryside of France, and the various other people that he meets. And it's not like they're not like heavy on plot, but they're so endearing and lovely, and what he learns about his father and his mother, and the kind of the adventures that he goes on are just so endearing and sweet and well done. And so it's Marcellus, France is where they're at.
I've never
And
heard
they're
of this.
beautiful, they're wonderful. I love them both.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I've never heard of these movies. At least I don't think so.
Mm. Yeah, they're both wonderful, and I highly recommend.
Yeah, check that
Let's
out.
see
Yeah.
if they're available anywhere. They're on Hoopla.
Oh, good. I think
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
yeah, you should. They're really good. And let's see if my at least let's see if they're both on there. Yep, both are on Hoopla. So definitely worth checking out. So what do you have next?
I have Real Women Have Curves,
Mm,
which is
yeah.
the first film that America Ferrera did. And when I was thinking about this movie, I realized that it's kind of like Lady Bird, except that Anna is a way better person. She's far more
Yeah.
likable.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So basically, you know, like Anna comes from a Mexican family, Mexican American family, and she dreams about going to college, but her, you know, and her teachers are like, it's not too late. Put that application in. And her father's played by, I think her father's played by George Lopez, if I'm remembering correctly. And he's like, he's very supportive of her, as is her sister. And he's like, I'm going to try to work on your mom. But her mom is dead set against it. She's like, no, you got to stay here, work in the factory, you know. And they throw her a graduation party, and her mom berates her for eating cake, saying, you're too heavy. You got to lose some weight. How are you going to, you know, you got to land a husband and have babies. And it's just a struggle because her mom's very domineering and tells her what to do and she secretly is applying for this college and she starts dating this boy and he's a white boy and her
Hmm.
mom is just not happy about it and accuses her of, you know, doing improper things with him. And she's like, you got to chill, mom, you know. And her mother's very like, it has to be very traditional, it has to be done this way. And she wants to keep her family together, but it's not a great relationship. And she does start working in the factory with her mom. And there's this like great scene of because it's so hot in the factory that she just strips down into her underwear and she's like, I'm not sweating doing all this work and all the rest of the women
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
a good
And her,
scene.
yeah, and her mom is so like upset about it. But the women have a real conversations like, we've got scars, we're all different sizes and different body types, and we shouldn't be ashamed of ourselves. And this is, you know, about being a woman. It's actually a really great scene, very positive
Yeah.
scene. But her mom is like so like disgusted and upset. And you know and her poor dad, but the movie does end with her going to college and like, no, I'm going to leave. I'm going to do my own dream. And she's got the support of her father and her sister. And her father drives her to the airport, but her mother won't even leave the room and say goodbye to her. And it's just like because her mother's still set in her ways, but she's like, Anna's like, no, I got to live my own life. And half my family supports me, but my mom doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's
Did
kind of a sad ending, but also very positive because
did you
she's
know
going to
there's
college. She's not doing anything wrong.
yeah, did you know there's a Broadway musical coming out?
I did not know that,
Yeah, Real Women
really.
Have Curves. Yeah.
I wonder if
This year.
if because I know that the woman who wrote it I wonder if she adapted it because she's a playwright.
Mm.
Because I
Yeah,
believe
I'm
this
not
was
sure.
based on a play that she wrote because she co-wrote no, I don't have her name, but she co-wrote this movie. But I saw this movie so many times because it was on HBO in 2002, and I would just watch it whenever it was on because it really spoke to me at the time.
Yeah.
Because I had
It's
an
a good
immigrant
one.
family, and
Yeah,
you have certain things that you have to do, but you also want to live your own life.
that makes sense.
And yeah.
Yeah. Well, my next pick is where I have Moonlight.
Mm,
This was the Best Picture winner. That I was kind of debating because it has part of it tells three stories. It's about one
yeah.
person and three parts of their life. This black gay man in Florida, and so the coming of age part is really mostly the middle part with the
It counts.
teen Sharon. But it's my favorite part. It's the most moving part, I think.
It is the most moving part, yeah.
Yeah, when he's getting bullied and has sort of his first experiences, and I think the whole movie is very, very moving and beautifully made, and it really gives you a chance to feel empathy for somebody that you might not otherwise come in contact with unless you happen to, you know, live
hmm
in this part of the world and be gay and be black, like just
Yeah.
it does such a good job of like getting you in the shoes of walking around as somebody that might be completely different from yourself. That's definitely how I felt, and I thought it was really moving, and so yeah, I have that next.
It's a good pick.
Yeah. So what do you have next?
So at my number 10, I have Juno. Which
Mm.
is like I have a love-hate relationship with this movie. But I do think that, because Juno ends up, being a teenage pregnancy and she's got to
Hmm.
make these decisions. And I think that, some of the dialogue, the honest to blog, like it's just like I want to punch a teddy bear when I hear that ridiculous dialogue. But I will say like the way they depict like will she have her decision of whether or not to have an abortion and then her deciding to give the baby up for adoption and that her parents are very supportive of her
Hmm.
and I
Oh,
like
I love her
that and
parents so much.
yeah and it's just like it's a different spin on it and the whole stuff with Jennifer Garner too
Hmm.
like when because Jason Bateman what a fool that man is in this movie and when
But
that all
it's so
falls
like raw and honest
it's
in
so
the sense of
yeah
like you can see why Juno thinks that he's so great at first,
yeah I know
and then
and then
by
it's
the
not
end, like she really does come of age by the
totally.
end.
And even like when she decides that I'm still gonna like in Jennifer Garner, it's like because she was hoping for a baby and it looks like it's all over, but she's like, no, I still choose you.
Yeah.
And like even when Jennifer Garner holds that baby at the end, it's
Oh,
like so touching. And the thing too between Elliot Page and not Jason, Michael Sarah,
Michael
right?
Cera, yeah.
When after she has the baby and he comes in and he looks ridiculous in his basketball uniform. And they don't see the baby, but even that scene where they hug in the bed and she's crying because it's so emotional, that is very well done. And I
Yeah.
think it's a really positive it's a positive story about adoption and even teen pregnancy,
Yeah.
where
I love it. I do
it
have
could
it
have been so
higher.
cliche, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
I will give that this movie props for
yeah.
that. Yeah.
You're pretty you're the coolest person I know, and you don't try at all. I try really hard actually.
You know what I love the part
So
too,
good.
where
I
they were
love her
like,
friend too.
"Oh my
Her
gosh,
friend
yeah."
is so good.
Friend is so
Oh,
funny.
it's
But
Jason.
I do love like J.K. Simmons, like when they were like, how did Juno get pregnant and all this stuff? And he goes, oh, please. It was all Juno's idea. Like when they
Yeah.
hooked up, like he totally knows his daughter,
Yeah.
And he was like, that boy never had a chance. And it
Yeah.
was like,
Well, there's just so many. That ain't no etch a sketch.
I mean, it is
I
great.
love that
I
movie
mean, I
so
will
much.
give that movie props to it. It is like a positive story, but I do have a love-hate relationship with it.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, my next pick is where I have Boyhood.
Mhm.
And I don't know, a lot of people didn't like or thought this movie was overrated, whatever. I was so moved by it, especially the first time I saw it, just to see like a whole life. Like it is a gimmick, but it definitely bought the gimmick, that they filmed this over 12 years. The
And nobody knew about it.
the whole journey of a boy, but also a family, was so moving. And it's, especially when he's about to leave and she just starts to cry and he's like, I'm not, I haven't died, I'm not dead. And but like that part of her life is over. And
Yeah.
so it's so touching. And his the reason why I don't have it higher, even though I think it's a tremendous film, is like his actual growth isn't as important to me as his mother's growth. It's really more, I think, about her than
Yeah.
about him. But it's still, I think, just it is a coming of age, literally showing people coming of age,
I know.
I think it's a special film.
I just
So
remember, like, how did he get away with this without everybody finding out that he was doing it at the time, right? It was
yeah,
kind of almost like when it came out, it was like, yeah, I've been filming this for
because
12
I
years.
think
And
it was
people were
just
like,
like a
what?
week, 1 week every
Yeah,
year.
it's
It was
amazing
just
he
like,
pulled that off,
it
right?
really
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
very, very impressive. And he's just so lucky that nobody like died, or
Oh my gosh,
that
I know.
like that would have
I
been
just remember
horrible.
too, what I hated was the critics were like, I hated this. People were like, Patricia Arquette is great, and she's not ashamed of having people see her age through the movie. And I was like, that is the terrible thing to like, you're not talking about. There
Yeah.
was a lot of like, I mean, she rightfully won the Oscar because she gives a great performance, but there were people like talking about like, oh, and like she's not vain because you see her age through the movie. And I was like, yeah, let's not focus on that. Let's
Hmm.
not focus on like, let's focus on the performance. I thought that was
Yeah.
like a really crappy thing to talk about during that movie because it kind
Yeah.
of
I
takes
mean,
away
she
from
was
her.
pretty vulnerable, but
Yeah, it takes away from that
still
performance. Yeah.
acting like she's like somehow so like garish or something. Like, wow, what
Yeah,
an incredible.
it's
I get
like
what you're
you know what
saying.
it
Yeah.
is? It's like it's true. It's like, oh, can you believe it? Like she was
Like, was
young and then
Ethan
12
Hawke
years
brave?
later.
He did the same thing.
No, of course not, because he's a man.
Yeah.
It's okay to watch him age in a movie, right? Because this is
Right.
like natural aging that you're watching. It's
Yeah.
not makeup, it's natural aging. But like he's a man, so it's a pass. It's like what they're kind of doing with Pamela Anderson now. Like
Yeah.
she's so brave because she doesn't wear makeup anymore. And I was like, guys, let's not do this.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
can see
person.
that. Yeah.
You take away from their hard work that way.
What do you have next?
I have mermaids.
I like that one too.
Boy, this movie, because Winona Ryder is like, it's a troubled girl.
Well, I just love that Cher lives my dream of eating appetizers.
Oh my gosh, I
That's
know.
a life
Like,
goal.
I mean, and it's like, it kind
It's a
of a
fun
mother and
movie. I
daughter.
like
It's
it
kind of
too.
a coming of age both for the mother and daughter. Because they're constantly moving around, and Winona's upset at her mom, because of like them constantly moving, and her dad. She's like, my dad, and Christina Ricci, baby Christina Ricci in this. But like, and her obsession, Winona Ryder's obsession with like religion and being Catholic, and she's like, we're Jewish, Charlotte. Like, what are you doing? And then she's so naive that she thinks God is punishing her for kissing that older dude that works at the convent, and that she's pregnant. She has to go to the doctor's office, and the doctor's like, it don't work that way. You're
Yeah.
not, but you can't get pregnant. There's no pregnant virgins out there. Like, not the way you were talking about.
That only happened one time.
And that and in no, not Ugly Betty. What was that one? Jane the Virgin. And in Jane the Virgin and
Yeah.
the telenovela that was based on that. That's how it happened. Um, but yeah, it's really funny, and and just that when the sister has that accident and the nuns got to save her from drowning because she's too busy hooking up with this older dude. Because he's like in his mid-20s, right? He's a bit older than she is, but this movie takes place in the 60s, and that was like completely okay back then. But yeah, like that big like when Cher smacks her, and they just after that they really start to like they don't yell at each other anymore. They just calmly talk about all their issues and sort of come to a moment of understanding between the both of them, and like giving a shot, and like for Cher not to constantly be running away from relationships or just life in general. And like Cher's struggling too because she was a young mom, so she's making mistakes as well. And I think it's a funny movie, it's a sweet movie, and at the end, it's like you're hoping that Charlotte is gonna, become better, but she's no longer obsessed with Catholicism. Now she's obsessed with like Greek mythology at the end. And you're like, yeah, Charlotte's gonna be like one of them weird ones when she grows up, but I do love the mother-daughter relationships in the movie.
Yeah, that's a nice one. I like that one too.
Yeah.
So my next entry is where I have my other tie. So both of these movies that I'm going to talk about are really, really good, I think, blockbuster films. So they seemed kind of similar to me, even though they're quite different. But I have E.T., the Extraterrestrial, and I have A Little Princess from 1995. I
Mm,
think both of these movies are so heartfelt and emotional. The lead performance are so good, and it's interesting that they both of them. I've never really even seen them in anything else. I think that Henry Thomas I think did do some other stuff, but I've never seen it. They're and I don't think that the Liesl Matthews was her name in Little. I don't think she did any other movies. So it's like they're just these characters to me, and they both have just like so much humanity. I love both of these movies. They both have great scores too. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I love both of them.
And is that your favorite adaptation of The Little Princess?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite.
Hmm. It's a good one, yeah.
It's
I
beautiful,
haven't
and
seen that since I was a kid.
I absolutely love the way that they bring in the Indian uh lore and music, and because their time spent there, I
Yeah.
think is beautiful. And the Shirley Temple one, it is
I'm more familiar with
it
that one.
really hits all it tries to hit all those emotional buttons.
Yeah.
But it also has the whole or was that Heidi? I get Heidi and is
You
the
get all
Heidi the
those
one with
movies.
the new no, that's Heidi with the girl with that learns how to walk again.
I think that's Heidi.
Heidi. Get those confused sometimes. But
I know they're very similar.
yeah. But I remember enjoying that, but this one is just I think one of the most beautiful family films ever made. Little Princess.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
I
And
have to like recheck that one. I haven't seen that in so long.
E.T. when they've got those they've got ET on all those he's got him all pale and white and hooked up to all those machines, and
Wow.
Elliot is sitting there like screaming. And you're just like, oh my god.
And that movie really tackles to divorce,
Yes.
like too, like in like a kind of like a realistic, devastating way because those kids are like going through it too at that point.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. My nephew chastised me. He was like, "How come you never showed me E.T.?" Because it's not a movie I go back to very much. And I was like, well, I failed. I'm sorry about that. I had to apologize. Yeah. I failed in his upbringing, showing him E.T.
It is a wonderful moment when the bikes fly.
Oh, it is. It's really great.
It's magic.
And yeah, classic Spielberg. Like that's what people, when you talk about him, you think about that moment in E.T. Yeah.
So what do you have next?
So we're at 8, right? Yeah.
Yes.
This is where I have Moonrise Kingdom. I
That was
love
high up for me. It
Yeah.
was high up for me. It's one of my favorite Wes Anderson.
I do love Wes Anderson. I think my favorite of his is Grand Budapest.
Yeah.
But like
Those are high up for me as well.
yeah, this movie is like these kids though. These kids are like little jerks.
Yeah.
It's just like they run away. I gotta say, like, this is a really good performance from Bruce Willis, like one of his last like really good performances. But I love Bill Murray,
So
just
good.
like running, ripping his shirt. Look for my
Yeah.
daughter,
The only
and
reason I decided not to put this in my top 12 it's just because like there's less of a coming of age. It's more just about kids.
true, but
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like at least the two main kids learned something, I think, along the way. But I do love
Yeah. It's a good one. I like
when the
it.
camp kids get together to help them out and they're like really taking people's eyes out and stuff like that. It's like it's utterly delightful. And when they're dancing at the beach, and just this whole underground camp thing and Tilda Swinton coming in as a social worker. I mean, it's very charming and like I love Wes. This is Wes at his A game,
Yeah.
Wes
Yeah.
Anderson.
That's a good one. My next one is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh, I have this higher
That's
on my
my next
list.
one. I love this one.
So great.
So authentic, so true, and especially the relationship between her and her grandma. That is so good. And I loved her and I loved her character. So that's my next pick. My number 8. What do you have next?
I have Boys in the Hood at my number
Mm.
7. Um, Cuba Gooding Jr., Lawrence Fishburne, Angela Bassett in one of her earlier roles. She's in and out of this movie because you can't have a mom in this movie. But, it's basically he becomes a teenager. The mom's like, you got to go live with your father, learn how to be a man. And he's living in California in this very different upbringing than what he had, like a different uh town and stuff like that. And he has a best friend, and his best friend is like he's going to college, and his brother's played by Ice Cube, who's like a gang member, and it's just these kids trying to like manage life, get to school, hang out with girls, and his friend who's going to college, he's got like a baby, and one day just going, coming home from the grocery store, he gets shot and killed in a drive-by, and his mom blames Ice Cube for it because he's a gang member, and then Cuba Gooding Jr. goes through his emotions, and I was like, when he's like that scene where he's holding his dead friend and he's crying and yelling is so iconic, for that movie, that scene, and then he's full of rage, and his father's like, this is not how we handle it, and he's like, I'm gonna go with Ice Cube and hunt down these guys and kill them, and then he's really got to come to like, do I want to do this? Do I want to lead this life, or do I want to honor my friend in a different way? And like all these like emotions of like, it's not fair what happened to him. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it is like it's a different look because this is a community in California. I don't know anything about this life, right? But when
Yeah.
this movie came out as, in 1991, we all watched it. It was such a big hit and we all loved it. And you really like, it gives you like I don't know how honest it is, but it gives you a portrayal and where you're like, you gotta, sometimes you have to watch things that get you out of you like your
Yeah, kind of
bubble.
like
So you can
Moonlight, what I was
yeah,
saying.
so you can like learn, oh, I'm out of my bubble, like,
Yeah.
and then so you become more aware, more worldly, more, you learn stuff from that. And so it's like an eye opener like that. But I really do think it still holds up today. And
Hmm.
I think it
Hmm.
still resonates with a lot of people too.
I haven't seen it. That's a blank spot of mine, but I definitely want to. That
Yeah.
sounds really good. My number seven is where I have Pollyanna, and I think this is
Oh,
one of the
which
more
which version?
the Haley Mills.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is one of the more underappreciated Disney films, if I were doing
Yeah.
an underrated Disney. Because I think it's just sort of dismissed as being like the happy, lucky movie. There's really a lot more to that, that she has developed this whole thing because it's a survival tactic, helping her to get through it. And losing both of her parents and having to come to live with her aunt, and the what the transformation can happen when a little a little positivity can do to this town and everybody and the people she meets, particularly the old people. We talked about this in the old people movies, but Mrs. Snow, who's
Yeah.
all she's talking about is dying. You shouldn't talk anymore about dying. You should talk about living, and the grumpy old man. She finds the prisms and just wonderful. But my favorite part of the movie is Carl Malden
Yeah.
as the minister, the reverend, and she talks to him about the glad text, and it really has this transformative effect on him, and he's so good in this movie.
He really is.
He's really, I just think, underappreciated for this role. He is just absolutely, I mean, he won 2 Oscars, so not underappreciated, but just in this movie, I think he's underappreciated. He's
Yeah.
so good in this role. And in the end, when she finally has lost her ability to find joy in everything that's happened, and how devastating that is,
I know.
um it's great. I love
It
it.
is, it really is. I had forgotten about this one. It's another movie I
Mhm.
haven't watched in years, like, but it is good.
Yeah, I really love it. What you have at 6?
This is where I have Lady Bird. Lady
Okay,
Bird
yeah.
is an awful person. Um, Sorry, but she is.
No,
I
absolutely. I feel for the mom watching this.
I feel for Laurie Metcalf in
Yeah,
this movie,
yeah.
absolutely, because she's like people were like that mom is horrible. I was like, no, they are different people and they are struggling and they just don't understand. This is a mother and daughter that don't truly understand each other. And Lady Bird is very selfish and that's her. She comes to that realization towards the end of the movie. And I know that people love Greta Gerwig. I don't. I don't think her movies are that amazing, but I did really like Lady Bird. And because I do think it's like kind of honest in showing like, yeah, I'm showing an unlikable person, and her
Mhm.
journey. But, and like she's so selfish. And then that scene where like her mom finds out, oh, from the wrong side of the tracks, because she doesn't want to tell. And it's so funny because she ditches her best friend to become friends with a popular girl and like lies about where she lives and what her family does. And when the popular girl finds out about that, she doesn't stop being friends with her for that. She stopped being friends with her because she lied. Like you didn't have to lie about that. What do I care? You
Mhm.
know? And
True.
she
I haven't seen
and
this one for a long time.
yeah, and like what she does to her best friend, and then they make peace, and her obsession, her romantic, like she feels like this is more of a romanticized thing with Timothy Chalamet, and it's not.
Mhm.
And then what happens between them kind of bursts her bubble, and she desperately wants to go to this college, and her mom's like in New York, and her mom's like no because we can't afford it, because her mom is a nurse, she works at a psychiatric hospital, her father got laid off. And like her brother and his wife live in the house too. And times are hard and they really can't afford that. And she's like, well, you think about your dad. And there's like some great moments, like, how much money do I owe you for like my upkeep and my clothes? And she's like, I highly doubt you'll ever. amount to anything that will make you that much money. And like such brutal truths. And then she does everything behind her mother's back. And then when it comes out that the father's taking out all these loans that they really can't afford to send this ungrateful girl to college, and that scene at the airport where she's like, "You're not going to say goodbye, Mom."
Oh,
And
and
she's like,
they
"No, I'm
writes the
not going to pay for
letter.
parking. Yeah, I'm not going to pay for parking because it's too expensive." And that is their goodbye. And just the mom like breaking down and trying to come back, but missing her daughter, like trying to come back and saying goodbye, because she's so mad at her daughter for like just being selfish. But at the end, she regrets it, and she tries to make up, but doesn't. But the father is like a real hero at the end because she tries to write all those letters and never finishes it, and he puts it all that in the daughter's bag so she can read them. And like when she gets to New York, it's not the great that she thinks. Her first day there, she gets alcohol poisoning and ends up in the ER, and she's miserable. And then she reads those letters from her mom, and she just understands at that moment what her mother was trying to get to her, and she kind of like
Yeah.
opens her eyes a little bit. I mean, she probably still continues to be a terrible person, but she's more aware of it.
Hmm.
And I do think the performances are great from
Yeah.
Sacha Ronan and Laurie Metcalf.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. My number six is maybe a bit more obscure. It's a animated film called Persepolis.
I have not seen this one.
Yeah, so it's about this Iranian girl that it's a true story written Marjane Satrapi about her it's her graphic novel put into movie form, and Marjane, she in the 1970s, she's in Iran. There's the Iranian Civil War, the Iranian Revolution, and so she goes from being somewhat free to express to being more controlled and limited, and all that time while also growing up and experiencing things and wanting things and spending time in Paris for part of it, and it's just about her growing up, and it has such a cool visual aesthetic. It really captures that graphic novel feel, and as far as like sullen grumpy teenage archetypes, this is, I think, one of the best because it does feel pretty authentic, because so much of what she's struggling with is out of her control,
Yeah.
with this government and with the other things limiting her, and so it makes, whereas like other times it feels inauthentic to me, that I don't know, that I know that teens go often, and I certainly went through a grumpy stage, but like sometimes it feels, it doesn't feel reasonable with what's going on, and it's not, I don't think it's very well portrayed sometimes, the
Mhm.
authenticity and the humanity, but this, it makes sense, because it's all mostly out of her control. And so anyway, beautiful movie, and very unique. So I'd say check it out. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can feel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. You can also have up to 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. It's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. I know I recently went with the chef's choice, and I had smoky Gouda chicken, herb cream cheese salmon. Really good. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Hallmarkies50 off. Use code Hallmarkies50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Hallmarkies50 off at factormeals.com/Hallmarkies50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. What do you have at 5?
I have East of Eden with James Dean.
Oh.
And this is really only like a portion of the book. I mean, if somebody wants to like see an adaptation of the entire book, there's this pretty solid 1980s miniseries that stars Jane Seymour and everybody who was famous on TV in the 1980s, like Bruce Boxleitner and stuff. So there's like moments in this movie that I guess because it was made in the 50s, you don't really touch upon of like really. because we start off with these two brothers, Cal and Aaron, and Aaron is like essentially the good brother, the saintly, thoughtful kid, and Cal isn't. He's moody, and their father is ultra religious, and Cal is full of like, my dad doesn't like me, and I'm full of sin. And the movie doesn't elaborate. I mean, you know, outside of the movie, it's because he may or may not be that guy's son. But anyway, and he finds out the truth about his mom, and they really don't have much to do with his mother here, but the scenes that she in is like quite an impact because he finds out that she is alive. They thought their mother had been dead all this time, but and that she runs a brothel, that she became a prostitute and she runs the brothel. And he doesn't, and Cal feels not loved by his dad. And Aaron has a girlfriend, and Cal and that girlfriend catch feelings for each other, but then Aaron gets engaged to her. The father tries to open up they live on a farm, and he tries to open up a business and it fails. It has to do with, because this takes place after World War One, so it has to do with refrigeration. I'm pretty sure it has to. That's how it is in the book. I'm trying. I think that's how it is in Eastern Eden as well. And that fails, and he goes completely broke. So Cal borrows money from his mother to start a business where he's buying beans from other farmers. And it becomes successful. And his mother's loving it. His mother's like, oh, the irony that, you miserable kids, because she hates her kids, and a man that I hated and never loved, and a farm that I hated that has to be saved because of me. And it's kind of like, I shot your father in the arm, just to run away because she's just not a very likable person. She's very psycho, like she's a psychopath almost. But the father refuses to take any of that money because he's like, you didn't earn it honestly. You stole from other farmers, and this is very upsetting to Cal, and he's upset about his brother being engaged. And so he tells his brother the truth, and his brother goes to see his mother, and his world is devastated. He ruins his brother's life, and he starts to drink, and he enlists in the army, and this is already, I'm going long on this one, but basically the father tries to stop him, and he sees how just ruined his son is, and he has a stroke, and even at the end, the Cal is trying to make it up to his brother, to his father, and his father whispers something in his ear. We don't really know what it is, but Cal is like, no, I'm the only one that my father wants to take care of him. So the movie kind of ends where like you think that father and son have kind of made peace with each other. You be the judge on that. But I think James Dean did not have many films. He died very young, but I think this is a really good performance by him. And it's like he really has like three iconic films, to his name to live by. Um, and when I was thinking about this, I wanted to pick a classic, and I thought this is the like
Yeah,
really
I've
like
never
the
seen this
most
one.
melodramatic way. There's a lot going on in this movie, and I went long on it because I'm trying to like fit a lot of it going in. And it's crazy because this is only part of the book that this movie covers. So,
Mm.
there's like so much to dig
Yeah, I've
into.
never seen it. I've never seen it,
Yeah, it's like worth a
but
shot, it's worth
mhm.
definitely if you just want to watch James Dean's like three films, like to watch that, and like kind of understand the impact he made just with those three films, before his tragic death. It's a good example of it, and it's beautifully shot and yeah, well
Mhm.
acted, and
Yeah,
it's like, something that kind of resonates today, even though it was made in the 50s and it's a period piece itself.
yeah. Well, my number five is where I have Juno, so we already kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love it. I just think it's got heart, soul, but it's also really funny.
Yeah.
It's very quotable, and it's a favorite. So what do you have at number four?
I have Stand By Me.
Mm, yeah, that's a
Um,
good one.
all these little kids that became famous, and River Phoenix, and Richard Dreyfuss is the narrator, but essentially he tells the story of like the late 1950s when these kids are all 12 and they hear about a dead body and they go in search of this dead body so they can become heroes because this boy has been missing. And so, and they have, they're dealing with each of these kids are dealing with their own issues, grief, family affairs. Like I'm tired of my reputation because my family is like criminals, and then they almost get run over by a train and leeches when they get the leeches stuck on them, and like that famous scene where they're in the junkyard and the dog chases them. It's like a mini adventure on the way, but once they find the dead body and they have to battle the bad boys, they realize like this isn't right, and they kind of grow up in that moment, and they anonymously call the cops and say this is where this kid that's been missing for a while is. And then they just go home, and it's like it because this all takes place during like I think it's Memorial Weekend. And so they go home and you like and they just they're changed. They're changed. They're like this whole experience has changed them for the better, and they've gotten a little bit more confidence, and and like one kid is dealing with the grief because his older brother died, and his family, like his mother and father, are just bereft. They're like they can't handle it, and he's like, my dad doesn't hate me, he's just like full of grief, and Richard Dreyfuss just tells the story about like that's the closest we were, and then how they fell apart as they got older, and it's kind of like sweet in its adventure, and it's about a boys, but there's like a lot of meaning to it, and I've loved this movie since I was a kid.
Yeah, I can definitely see I can see
Yeah.
that. My number four is, I think, a masterpiece. The only reason I don't have it as number one is because I just think it's like slightly less coming of age, is more of like a family story, but it still has those elements. I have To Kill a Mockingbird at
Oh
number
yes.
four because it definitely is about Scout's transformation over
Oh
the course of
yeah.
this summer with this trial and seeing what happens to her dad and understanding that like life is not fair, and but that
Totally.
doesn't mean you don't do what is right, and seeing her dad stand up to everybody, even though he knows it's a lost cause, but lost causes are the greatest thing worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a big fan of the recently retooled version of this that Aaron Sorkin did on Broadway. Wasn't a big fan of it because they turned Atticus into this like kind of country bumpkin, and they took out like most of the heroic moments. I think to be more politically correct, but I we can't have heroes anymore. We can't have like just good people. Like they took out the line about lost causes of the only things worth fighting for. I was very annoyed by it. But and I mean Richard Thomas gave a good performance, but still, it's like To Kill a Mockingbird. Come on.
Yeah,
Um,
you
but
such a great movie too,
this
like, and a
movie
great
is
book. Yeah.
yeah, this movie is basically perfect. I mean, incredible performances,
Hmm.
incredible. The music is so good. The cinematography, it captures, small town America so well. Um, I don't know what else you could want in a film than To Kill a Mockingbird. It's
It's true.
really good. And it captures that moment in childhood where everything changes
Totally. Yeah.
so well. And I mean, 1962 was such an incredible year of film, to have Lawrence of Arabia,
Oh
The
yeah.
Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, was that year. Uh, um, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Dr. No. Like it was a very, very good year for film. And so this was one of them. um, so let's see here. Okay. So what do you have at three?
This is where I have Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Which
Mm,
this movie is so
so
underrated,
good.
and like Rachel
Yeah.
McAdams is so good in this
So
movie.
good.
And
Kathy Bates too.
I wish it would have gotten some awards love for like
Yeah.
adaptation and for Rachel McAdams, because and the little kids in this movie
Costumes.
stars. Oh, I would have loved if the costumes got noticed, because and the girls in this movie, the children are like, I was like, these are like future superstars because they were so good
Yeah,
in
and
this
and the mean
movie.
girl, like she has humanity to her.
Absolutely.
That
And
you
like,
understand why she's doing what she's doing.
yeah, and it's like it all and the little girls like, doing their whole like so they could grow boobs, and it's like you just so relatable no matter
Yeah.
what age you are, because you go through that as a girl.
Hmm.
And when you're going through those stages of life, that other people, don't experience to that extent.
Yeah.
But did you ever pray for boobs, Rachel? Because I think this is the moment I think every girl does.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, what do you mean? Like, there's so many, like,
You just
when you
want the
fight.
rest of your life to start.
You
You
just
get
want,
tired of waiting.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're so like, I want to be an adult. I want to be a teenager. And like childhood, like little kids, it's so fleeting. It's so fleeting because you spend so little of your life being a kid because you're more of an adult the majority of
Hmm.
it, and that you just like, you don't see it. And it's such a wonderful relationship between the parents and the grandparents and like with her. And I just wish more people need to like watch this movie and love it.
Hmm.
It's totally underrated. It went under
Yeah.
the radar, but
Yeah, I
it's so
agree.
good.
Well, my number three is Dirty Dancing. Believe it or not, it's really people think of it as sort of a light and fluffy movie, but it's really not. When you dive into it, like I mean, it's about this girl becoming a woman,
Yeah,
and you have a character who ends up getting an abortion, and how does she feel about that? And I mean, that's definitely not taken lightly. I know it's just seen as kind of a fluffy movie, but it's really not. And of course, it has the iconic dancing scenes and the iconic, nobody puts baby in a corner, and then great chemistry
I
between
know.
between Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. And yeah, I think it's great.
Constantly quoted, nobody puts baby in a corner as kids. Like,
Yeah.
I remember, and this movie kind of became a cult classic, but I remember how big the soundtrack was.
Oh yeah.
And it was in two volumes, volume one, volume two on cassettes. Kids, we had cassettes back then, and how it was
Yeah.
just so is I kind of never thought of this as coming of age. But yeah, but she's like 16, 17,
Yeah.
vacationing for the summer at the Catskills.
Hmm.
And then, don't watch that remake that ABC did, that
Oh
the
yeah.
movie forgot it was a musical, that which enraged me.
Yeah.
I was never as mad, and my sister got angry,
Oh,
so
and
we
the
watched it
epilogue was
together.
so cringe.
My sister was enraged by that. She was like, how, I was like, whoever thought that was forever love?
Yeah,
Uh, so funny
terrible.
because I watched that movie in the theater, Dirty Dancing. And I can't remember. It was for the anniversary, but I can't remember which anniversary it was. It was a couple of years ago, not that long
Yeah.
ago. And I was so excited to see it. And it was so great because that was the first time I ever saw that on the big screen. But they had an interview with the author. And this is definitely, I definitely saw this after the remake. And they had it with the screenwriter. And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's forever love in that one." And I was like, "Pardon? You mean they continue to be together forever?" She viewed that as forever love, which was not something that I ever viewed as like Johnny and Baby together. So it's an interesting little tidbit that she's like, if I ever wrote a sequel, yeah, it'd be like checking on them like later on in life, still together and in love. I was like, "Excuse me," but nice to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
What do you have at two?
I have Fish Tank, which is a British film.
Oh,
Stars Katie Jarvis, Michael
I haven't.
Fassbender.
I don't know this.
It's what is the director's name? She did a version of Wuthering Heights
Huh.
as well. But basically, Katie Jarvis, she's like playing a 15-year-old girl. I think she was 18. This was like her first movie. I don't know if she's done much since. Um, And sort of they casted her on a whim because they saw her arguing with somebody, I think at a train station, and thought she was perfect. But it's her little sister, and her mom. Her mom's really struggling. It's a single family. They are not well off. They are living in a housing complex, and these aren't rich people, and they're on assistance, and she's not going to school, and the mom's frustrated with her, and she loves to dance. She spends most of her days dancing, and she has dreams, and she meets like a random older. He's not that much older than her, but he lives in a caravan, and he too dreams of like a better life, like getting away from his family, and they start hanging out a lot. They're not boyfriend and girlfriend, but you know, they have similar backgrounds and they start hanging out. But the mom gets a new boyfriend. And at first, the daughter is like, I don't like him. And then he moves in, but she seems to connect with him. And she sees a flyer of like, try this auditioning, audition for like this dance. And he lends her video camera and he's very supportive of her of like, film yourself, send an audition. You want to dance, you want to dance. And he seems to be very much her friend. But he doesn't like her hanging out with this guy, and her mom thinks it's her boyfriend. And she's like, nah, he's not my boyfriend. And it turns out he's not really a good guy. He's very jealous, and he ends up sleeping with the daughter. And because she's 15, she's enamored with him. And right after that happens, he breaks up with his mom and moves out. And she doesn't know why. And also this dance audition that she was thinking was like something really important ended up just being to dance at a strip club. And she's devastated. And she's like, my life sucks. And she tracks down um, this guy and she finds out he's married and has a kid. And she's like, and you were living with my mom and us and all the stuff between us. And she does some really stupid things. She tries to take his kid and like her whole life is shattered. And this isn't a feel-good movie, by the way. But her friend, he gets a car and he's like, I'm leaving. Come with me. And at the end of the day, her mom knows that she's unhappy and miserable and not going to school. And she lets her leave with the kid. And they drive off, and she's definitely a changed person. She's not the same 15-year-old as she was before all the events happened. And you're hoping at the end of the movie that she's going to have a better life. But I don't feel like she is. I just feel she's going to repeat her mother's life and have the struggles that her mother is having and probably end up becoming a young mom, uh, which she may or may not be already, a young mother and, expecting, who knows. But I just like, you hope it's for the better, but I just think it's like she's going to be recycling the same kind of trauma over and over again. So it's a sad coming of age movie, but it's a great movie.
One. So that's good. My number two is actually Where I Have a Christmas Story.
Hmm.
And I've said a number of times on this podcast that I think this movie captures childhood just about as good as any movie ever has. The way that Ralphie sees his parents, the way he sees his teacher, the way he sees his friends, all of that is, I think, very authentic and easy to relate with. But where I think it really becomes a coming of age story is when he beats up Vargas
Oh
and
yeah.
the not only finally standing up to the bully, but also the fact that he saw his mom in a new way. And I think that's such a big part of coming of age is seeing your parents in a new way. And things would be different between me and my mom after that.
Oh yeah, because he's deathly afraid he's gonna get in trouble and his dad is gonna
Yeah.
yell at him, and his mom has like this compassion for him. Like, I get it, I get
Hmm.
why you lost, your cool and this bully and stuff, and she really shows. And for a little kid, that compassion means so much.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I know a lot of people think it's overrated. Not me. I really do love it. So that's my number two. What's your number one?
And Education. It's another British movie with
Yeah.
Carey Mulligan and Peter Sarsgaard, and it's like loosely based on a true story, and also by an essay that the that she wrote. But basically, Carrie Mulligan, she's a teenager. She's going to school. She has great potential. She wants to be a writer. So many famous British people are in this movie too. And one day she comes across an older guy, Peter Skarsgård, and they start dating. And it's okay because I think there's definitely an age difference, and he's opened up to a new world, and she's going to give up her education and like a potential career and going to college because she could go to a good college, and her teachers are like, don't give it up for this man. Like, think for yourself. We're in the 60s. And there is an age difference, but people back then, sure, people thought it was wrong, but it was not uncommon for the age difference of these like young girls dating like older
The
men.
only thing I
You know.
didn't like about this movie is I felt like they acted like this was like an essential part of growing up. Like everybody has one of these experiences where it's like, no, there are a lot of people who don't have this experience.
No,
And
they don't. I know, but like, it's
like it's
well,
if it is your experience, that's fine. But the way they were acting like is like
well, because they didn't
the
see anything wrong with it either. Like she had a romance with an older man, and he's kind of a con man, and he cons her family, and they're getting married, and she's gonna give up all this up because she loves him, and then that twist and how it all ends, and like
mhm.
I
But
don't
it
know.
is
I'll
very well
spoil it. Yeah,
acted,
yeah.
and I can see
Yeah. And
why.
she just like that devastation of that relationship that she was going to give up for because she truly loved him. And she's a young girl. And you think about all the young girls at that time who made that choice, you know? And this one sort of had a second chance, and she's got newer eyes and like more focused on that. But if you think about too, like all the other girls who made that choice and could have had it a different way, but like, no, I'm gonna like do this. And it's wonderfully acted, it's wonderfully shot, and I do really enjoy it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, my number one is The Perks of Being a Wallflower is where I can think of a movie that so like captured my experience of being a teenager better than this movie. Like it's obviously darker and goes to darker places than anything I experienced, thankfully. But I connected with it so much. It felt like this could have been me and my friends. They're kind of drama nerds, and especially Ezra Miller's character in it, and but even down to like the school, and I love how it's so authentic in so many ways. That like there's a fight scene in a movie that you see in so many teenage movies, and in the end, he actually breaks his hand, like he has to have ice on his hand, and he's like you never see like it's never done that authentically a fight scene. The party scene is so authentic. It's so many of these teen movies that have these over the top parties that I've never heard of. I've never heard of anybody going to one of them. Like they're so ridiculous. And in this one it's just like him and his friends with red cups, like hanging out. Like that's true. That is authentic to at least anything I ever experienced. And you can tell that Stephen Chbosky that he adapted his own book and directed it because it I think it's better than the book. He took the material and it just has that sort of you can tell it kind of went through a refining fire, that it's so close to him and that he made it so good. And some really wonderful lines like when he can't understand why the Emma Watson character keeps being with these jerks, and the Paul Rudd's character says we accept the love we think we deserve, and that's a very true, I think, concept. And he certainly has, I won't spoil it for you, but he certainly has a coming of age moment where he finally admits to some of the trauma that he's gone through in his life. And it's very upsetting, of course, but I just love it. I saw it 3 times the week it came out. I loved it that much. And I it, it, I really related to the friends, the the atmosphere. There's a whole scene where they go to a Rocky Horror night, and and I could relate to. I didn't go to a Rocky Horror Night, but I remember with my friends going to see Spice World
No.
and getting all into it because I had theater friends, theater nerd friends, and
Yeah.
uh,
I was invited to those Rocky Horror Nights, but I was like passed because I was like, I don't like that movie, and people
I didn't
gasped,
see that till
you
I was
know.
an adult, but yeah, just the whole idea of it and the atmosphere and everything.
Just
I
to be
could.
in a room where people just came out, I'm like, that I'll pass. No, thank you.
So it's I love it. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. So that's my number one. Perks being a wallflower.
Yeah, it's a good list.
Yeah. So I have for my list, I have the Marcel Pagnol movies, Mother's Castle, Father's Glory. I have Moonlight, Boyhood, E.T. and A Little Princess, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Pollyanna, Persepolis, Juno, To Kill a Mockingbird, Dirty Dancing, A Christmas Story, and The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah, so and mine are from 12 on up is Muriel's Wedding, Real Women Have Curves, Juno, Mermaids, Moonrise Kingdom, Boys in the Hood, Lady Bird, East of Eden, Stand By Me, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Fish Tank, and An Education.
Very good. Well, let us know what you think of our picks and what would be your picks. We'd love to see in the comment section or on Twitter. Or if you do a post, make sure to tag us. We'd love to see that. And make sure you check out our bonus episode for the patrons where you get 3 more of our picks. And they're pretty eclectic, fun picks. So you definitely want to check that out. Any level patron can participate in get the bonus episodes, and you can participate in all our other benefits that we have for being a patron. Make sure you take a look at that. And Terry, where can people find you?
Uh, Flurry Heaven on Twitter.
Right. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, like I mentioned, and the merch store. You can get tons of cool designs. Check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.